And welcome into Fantasy Baseball today, and welcome to June. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Today on the show, we got some big prospect promotions, also some big injuries to talk about, waiver wire moves, starter sit decisions, and much more. But Chris, June gets kicked off with a bang, courtesy of the Royals, who are promoting Jac Caglianone, who we have talked about so much already on this podcast, on FBT Express podcast. He is 22 years old, the 6th overall pick in last year's draft. And this season, 49 games across 3 levels in the minors. He is hitting .323 with 15 home runs, and he has gotten even better. Once he got to AAA, 6 homers, 1147 OPS, making a ton of contact, hitting the crap out of the ball. 66% rostered last I checked. Is this just a must add? Grab them while you can.
Absolutely. And I want to highlight, like, the reason we say Jac Caglianone or Nick Kurtz or whoever is a must roster player when they get first called up is not because we think they are guaranteed to make an impact. I think the likeliest outcome for Jac Caglianone is he's just fine. He hits for a lot of power, but struggles to make consistent contact and is not an impact player right away. That's probably the most likely outcome, just like it was for Nick Kurtz and every other prospect who's gotten called up. The reason we add Jac Caglianone everywhere is because you look at the first basemen who are available in most leagues, and it's like Gavin Sheets and Josh Bell and guys who are productive and are probably fine, but they're not more than fine. And that's what you're hoping Caglianone will be. You're hoping that this is a guy who has legitimate top of the scale raw power, has been putting it into action in games since he was at the University of Florida, has a swing geared towards lift. Like, this is not a guy who needs to hit the ball in the air more to live up to his potential. That is not the thing with Nick Kurtz. And actually, he doesn't really, at least so far in his career, have huge issues with swing and miss, at least on pitches in the strike zone. The biggest issue for Caglianone has been, going back to college, he chases way too much. And that was an issue in his first taste of the majors last year, or his first taste of the minors last year. It has not been an issue so far this season. His strikeout rate right around the major league average. His chase rate in AAA was 31%. That's fine. It's a little bit higher than league average, but not worryingly so. And so if all of that is transferable, it's great. That's awesome. That he'll be a difference maker. It's not the likeliest outcome, but absolutely you should add him, because the chances of anyone else being available on first base who could become a difference maker, pretty low.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, 66% rostered for Jac Caglianone here, and that's only 24% on Yahoo, so just widely available. Yeah. If you play over there, if you play in a head-to-head categories league, take a shot. I mean, we're looking at legit 80 grade power here for Caglianone. It's one of those where it doesn't matter that he's playing in Kauffman and it's a bad park for home runs. Like, this is a guy who has power that transcends ballparks. It doesn't really matter where. If he hits, it's going to go a long way. I do just want to acknowledge as well that the Royals now have Jac Caglianone and Vinny Pasquantino in the same lineup. Like, that's pretty awesome. It doesn't get much more like Italian order than that right there.
That's that's pretty good.
Trying to figure out where I'm going to drop him in the first base rankings, and should note, I think he's going to get outfield eligibility.
Oh yeah, he's going to play outfield. Yeah,
like that's the plan here for Caglianone. So he'll be first base outfield eligible. You'll have that dual position. That's awesome. I was looking at my first base rankings, and I kind of thought around 16th. So that would be just ahead of Jonathan Aranda. The Ben Rice one is still tough because, like, hits a home run off of Yamamoto, and we still know how talented he is, but
only one more appearance for catcher eligibility.
Not playing every day, and reinforcements are coming for the Yankees. So I don't know. I mean, maybe you feel differently about that one, but I was thinking I'm going to put Caglianone ahead of Aranda, ahead of Ben Rice, ahead of Michael Busch, ahead of Jake Berger, up behind names like Rhys Hoskins, Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't eyeballing it like Caglianone versus Jake Berger. that's a tough one because Berger is one guy who I really think does have the kind of upside that I said you can't really find on the waiver wire. So like if he and Caglianone were both available, you probably just add Caglianone just because this is the chance. There's not going to be another time to add Caglianone if he's good. And so that I think 17-ish makes a lot of sense. So I would lean, man, it's really hard with Ben Rice, Jonathan Aranda, Kyle Manzardo, Michael Busch. Like those guys are all good hitters already at the major league level. Like,
I mean, Busch just not playing against any lefties.
Yeah, but like they all have their drawbacks.
Yeah.
Aranda has playing time issues. Manzardo, really low batting average that might just be a problem for him forever. I think the median outcome for Caglianone is he's right around those guys, talented but limited, in a way that makes him something less than 100% must-start player. But those guys are sort of known quantities in a way that Caglianone isn't. So I might be inclined to just put him ahead of Rice, Aranda, Manzardo, and Busch and just bet on there being some kind of upside there, because there certainly is.
I had people asking me if I would drop Pasquantino, if I would drop Hoskins for him. I can't go that far. If someone wanted to do it, I can't blame you for doing it. Like Pasquantino, although he was better in May. I mean, he's basically what we were expecting now at this point, but there probably is some, more potential with someone like Caglianone. So I can't blame you if you wanted to do that. I think I would still kind of stick with the floor plays of Pasquantino and even like a Christian Walker and Rhys Hoskins there over a Jac Caglianone. But very fun times. And, the last straw here was Chris Bubic pitching a gem, giving up 1 run and not getting any run support and losing that game. So clearly the Royals know that they need help. They just need to score more runs, and he's going to play. I think he's going to play like every day too. So.
That's what I expect. As long as I don't see any reason he shouldn't be able to hack it in the outfield. I think he should be a good enough athlete. He's played there a decent amount in the minors, so I'm not worried about that. It's just a question of whether he hits. And Nick Kurtz was the guy before this that we were call him up. It's time. They need to call him up. And then we saw how that went. It was iffy. So there's no guarantees it works out, but yeah, you have to add him. And, it's funny. I wrote the waiver wire column for CBS Sports on Sunday at like 4 p.m. And he was the top first base option, Caglianone. And I said, it's a matter of days, not weeks. And turns out I undersold it. It was a matter of hours.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So again, the Royals promoting Jac Caglianone. Go add him if he's available in your league. Let's get into the players of the weekend.
Is this happening? It is.
All right, Chris, who do you have here from the weekend?
There's a lot of bad to talk about this weekend. So I'll be positive for once. I've been told I'm too pessimistic. So Spencer Schwellenbach. Remember Spencer Schwellenbach couldn't get any strikeouts, and he had gone, 9 starts in a row, 8 starts in a row with no more than 6 strikeouts. And then he struck out 11 against the Padres earlier this week. And then he goes out and strikes out 11 more against the Red Sox this week. Those are 2 tough matchups to get a lot of strikeouts with. And that was a good sign for Spencer Schwellenbach, because there's been a lot of talk this season just about who he is and what the ceiling is and just how good he is. And it was good to get a reminder that, the ceiling still can be really, really high. It was interesting, like the way he went about it, because it was mostly the 4-seamer dominating in this one. He got 8 whiffs on 29 swings. The splitter had 7 whiffs on 10 swings. He only had one other swing and miss in this start. It was one with the slider, but that 4-seamer has actually been a really good swing and miss pitch for Spencer Schwellenbach this season. 27% whiff rate for the season. It was 20% last year. He is throwing it about a mile per hour harder. And, that can sort of help to make up for what he's lost with kind of every other pitch in his arsenal being a bit worse. It's not like been a total collapse on any of them, but it's just been like a few points worse with the whiff rate on pretty much everything else. And so good to see Schwellenbach reminding us of what the ceiling can be. I still it almost makes him even more confusing to rank and value moving forward. Because if he was just like a high volume but low strikeout rate guy, and then it's like, okay, well, maybe does he have the ace upside, or is he like a really good number 2? And then it's like, well, now we have 3 double-digit strikeout games from Spencer Schwellenbach on the season. There were 8 starts in between them before he goes back to back. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of him. He's SP 15 for me. SP 14 because Michael King was ahead of him. I hadn't moved him down with the injury. That's probably right.
I have him at 23. I think I've just been a little bit harder on him because my expectations were so much higher into the season, which doesn't make the most sense. I think he probably should.
It's tough not to do that, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think he should be a top 20 starting pitcher. So I'll move him up a few spots here. And obviously it's easier to say after he has back-to-back 11 strikeout starts here. It's just, I'm trying to find something that's consistent with these strikeout starts. And the fastball has played better in terms of whiffs, but trying to figure out how to balance that with the fact that he gives up a lot of hard contact on that fastball when they make contact. 94.7 average exit velocity on that pitch. And I realize, again, like I'm nitpicking, 11 strikeouts is awesome. This is a, back-to-back great starts for Schwellenbach. You love it. And
the four-seamer was the top whiff pitch in both starts.
Yeah. So maybe it's just playing better, but it still is giving up a lot of hard contact. So, just trying to figure out, like, who is the real Spencer Schwellenbach? I think he's also trying to figure that out, like, on the fly. He doesn't have that much experience.
Yeah, he's still relatively new to pitching.
As a professional pitcher. So, I mean, the fact that he's been this good this early in his career, I think is it's just more of a positive for him than anything.
You know what it feels like a little bit?
What's that?
It feels a little bit like George Kirby last year. Remember where he got a ton of hype coming into the season. People were talking about him as a top 5 starting pitcher, and he wasn't that. And I think it was easy, especially there were a couple of really bad blow-up starts for George Kirby that inflated his ERA. And he didn't take the big strikeout leap that many were hoping for. And it was easy to like be a little overly pessimistic about him. But then you do step back and it's like, okay, wait, it's still a 3.13 ERA. And it's still a strikeout per inning. And so it's important not to miss the forest for the trees when it comes to players who are, quote unquote, disappointing.
All right, Chris, you went the positive route. I am going the other way here. We've got to talk about Jesus Luzardo. What the heck happened in this one? Just destroyed by the Brewers. The Brewers of all teams, it's been a pretty good matchup for pitchers so far this season. 3 in the third innings, 12 hits, 12 earned runs allowed, 2 homers against Jesus Luzardo, just 3 whiffs on 76 pitches. Clearly a lot of hard contact here. Didn't really have much working. Look, his fastball and sinker have just been getting destroyed this season. And that's even with the velocity being where we want it. We want Luzardo up over 96 miles per hour. That we made a big deal about that, and rightfully so. He's been awesome this season outside of the start. So I almost just want to give him a pass, Chris, but it's like, man, when you give up 12 earned runs and your ERA jumps like 3/4 of a run and your whip is now 134, it's all right. It's something we got to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is, for the first time in his career, really, Luzardo's sinker is doing what you want it to do, which is generate a ton of ground balls. His average launch angle against what that pitch is -5 degrees. Last year, it was 18 degrees. His sinker was getting hit in the air. The year before, it was 5 degrees. The year before, it was 7. And so, yes, the exit velocity is high, 92.3 miles per hour, but it's a lot of ground balls, and you can live with a hard hit ground ball. Now, the four-seamer, that's a bigger concern, and that's where it's probably just always going to get hit hard because it has he might have the least extension on his fastball of any pitcher in baseball. And so it sits 96, but because he releases it so far from home plate, it plays lower relative to other 96-mile-an-hour fastballs, and it doesn't have like special movement or spin or anything like that. And so his fastball is probably just always going to be a problem, but I still think the rest of the arsenal is strong enough that he can get past it. And look, I think the big takeaway here is he was never going to have a 2.19 ERA the rest of the way, or whatever it was down to. I think it was 2.19.
You just hate when it comes all in one.
Oh yeah, no, it's terrible. But that's how the regression monster does sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's all in one start. Sometimes it's a month. As long as he remains more like a 3.5 or lower ERA pitcher, he has a 3.35 xERA still. I still expect you'll be very, very happy to have Jesus Luzardo in your lineup moving forward. You weren't this weekend.
And I think you got to leave him in there because he's at the Pirates later this week. So obviously that's a great matchup. And again, he was so money before this started. It's a rough one. And believe me, I get it because I have Luzardo in a bunch of spots. And so, he crushed my ratios this weekend, but I'm leaving him back out there against the Pirates this upcoming week. Let's stick with the rough pitchers real quick. I want to talk about Brandon Pfaadt, who also got destroyed without even recording a single out. He was charged with 8 runs on 6 hits, 2 hit by pitches here, only 2 whiffs on 31 pitches, 3 hard hits. The velocity was actually up in this one, but man, you look at his May, it was rough. 6 starts, an 8.10 ERA, a 158 whip. And, shout out to you and Scott because, we did a buy low, sell high segment. I think towards the end of April or early May, and both of you guys had Brandon Pfaadt as a sell high pitcher at that point. And so you look up now, it's a 5.05 ERA, a 132 whip. I think maybe the worst qualified xERA among starting pitchers this season at 6.74. So I almost want to take this a step further. It's like, I don't want to start him this week at Cincinnati for sure.
Drop him.
Is he droppable?
I think so. Yeah. Last year, at least we had, when things were good for Brandon Pfaadt, they were really, really good. And he had, I think, 4 starts of at least 10 strikeouts. It might've been 4 starts of 10 strikeouts and no walks or something. It was something bonkers like that. And this year that just hasn't been there. Even when he was doing well in April, the strikeouts were really low. And so that was what made him, I think, such an obvious sell high candidate. And it's why I'm just not all that interested in buying low or even hanging on to him at this point, because he's always gotten hit really hard and he needs to miss a lot of bats to overcome that. And I mean, I guess part of my question with Brandon Pfaadt is like let's compare him to Sandy Alcantara. With Sandy Alcantara, I know what I'm chasing there. I might not get anywhere close to it, but I have seen Sandy Alcantara put together a whole season where he was a top 5 pitcher in fantasy. And he has been a must-start pitcher at least 2 other years in his career. Brandon Pfaadt had a 4.71 ERA last year. What am I chasing? A couple of good months strewn about over the course of 2 full seasons now? I just don't know if there's if the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say.
All right, yeah, I think that is fair on Brandon Pfaadt, 91% rostered, and I just don't know that you're going to miss it if you go ahead and drop him for, Lance McCullers is the most added pitcher on CBS right now. He's a 2-star pitcher. Look, it's Lance McCullers.
I think that's probably going to go pretty poorly this week, and I'm very wary of him as a 2-star pitcher. But
the matchups are good.
Yeah, I don't mind dropping Brandon Pfaadt for him. If you're looking a little more long-term, Yuri Perez, Bubba Chandler's got that's got to happen, right? At some point soon.
I don't know. It's the Pirates.
Or even Mick Abel got promoted.
Yeah.
I'd rather take the chance on him than Brandon Pfaadt.
All right. Before we take our first break, just a reminder to sign up for the FBT newsletter if you haven't already. If you're watching on YouTube, scan that QR code. That will take you right to the website where you can sign up for free. And big thanks to those watching us live. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Let's take that break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back in news and notes, and all eyes are on Corbin Burnes right now, Chris. This is the big news that came out on Sunday. He left to start due to right elbow inflammation, and you knew something was wrong immediately. He called to the dugout. He yelled in frustration. He had a shoulder thing that happened earlier this year, but now he will undergo an MRI on Monday for that right elbow. And I mean, I would bet on him being out at least this week. So, plan on a replacement there, but it could turn out to be much, much worse.
I mean, based on his reaction, obviously I don't want to like totally do the body language and lip reading thing, but based on how he reacted to the injury, gosh, if he only misses like a month, I think I'd be thrilled at this point. It looked really bad. I don't know. Obviously we can't say at this point, but yeah, it's pretty frustrating given the way he's been pitching for the last month or so.
Yeah, and he was pitching well in this start as well here on Sunday. I am trying my best to pull up Scott's sleeper pitchers to remind everybody what they are.
It's like Luis Severino was in there. I think Lance McCullers might have been the top one.
So it's McCullers in order. McCullers, Shane Smith, Ryan Weathers, Hayden Birdsong, Michael Waka, Luis Severino, Max Meyer, Tomoyuki Sugano, Landon Roop, Jeffrey Springs, and that is it. So if you need a replacement this week, those are some sleeper pitchers that you can look at. Oops, the Astros did it again, Chris.
This is crazy. Like when I saw this yesterday, I could not believe that they did this again. I'm sorry. Continue.
Yordan Alvarez is dealing with a fracture in his hand that apparently is 60% healed. And to this point, they have just been labeling this hand inflammation. So he'll be shut down from hitting until the fracture is fully healed, but eerily reminiscent to last year's kind of shadiness involving Kyle Tucker and a shin injury, which we later found out was a stress fracture.
Like, you're paying all these like McKinsey consultants $250,000 a year in your front office. Hire me and I will provide a return on investment that you wouldn't believe by just saying, hey, maybe let's have like an X-ray or a CAT scan, like what, like, I just don't like, this doesn't happen that often. Like if I had a nickel for every time that the Astros accidentally misidentified a fracture as just a regular injury for several weeks, I would have 2 nickels, which is not a lot of money, but it's weird that it happened twice. Yeah. This is crazy. I don't understand how you do this twice. I don't like, how does someone not get fired when your superstar last year misses a half season because you misdiagnosed a fracture, and then months later, like within the next calendar year, you do it again? How does that happen? That is unbelievable. Like, how are you having a guy doing batting practice with a fractured hand? I understand that like there is swelling and that can make it difficult to read, but like, come on, there's gotta be, this does not happen to other teams that often.
I mean,
it's unbelievable.
As a Yankee fan, I feel like I've gone through stuff like this in the past, but I didn't even think that it was incompetence. I thought they were just kind of being shady and not telling us what was up, but
I don't know, because it was similar last year where like he was trying to do baseball activities and he just could never get right. Like they were having him like run the bases and then he was still sore. And it's like, they are exacerbating these situations. Yeah. That's the thing that's most frustrating. It'd be one thing like he broke his hand. Okay, that happens. Like you can't account for that. But he broke his hand a month ago and they just found out and they've been having him hit batting practice multiple times. And that, like, I just don't understand how this could possibly happen. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I like, because as far as I know, I hadn't seen that he had an X-ray before this even. So like that's my thing is like, did he just not have an X-ray or a CAT scan or whatever until this most recent thing? Like,
I mean, he was diagnosed with hand inflation. So
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they had to have done some tests, but
you would think.
Yeah. So we'll see. Not great there for Yordan Alvarez, and not great for Mookie Betts, who apparently is dealing with a fractured toe, but expects to miss just a, quote, couple of days. He did not play in any of the 3 games against the Yankees this weekend. Chris, do you start or sit Mookie Betts this week?
I think I'd have to sit him and just hope that it really is just a couple of days, but fractured toe. Like it's not just a question of whether he comes back. Like Mookie Betts hasn't really been himself this season already. Like he hasn't been terrible, but it's been a frustrating start. And now he's going to be playing through a fractured toe. That seems like a situation that you should, I will say I want to see him look right before I start him at this point.
What about Bryce Harper, who's missed 5 straight after getting hit by a pitch on his right elbow earlier in the week? He said that he's feeling much better and anticipates playing on Tuesday. Do you start or sit Bryce Harper?
I'm inclined to start him, yeah.
All right, Kyle Tucker left early Sunday with a jammed right ring finger. He suffered on a slide into second base. X-rays came back negative. Maybe misses a day or two, but I'm inclined to leave Kyle Tucker in there unless we hear that this injury is a little bit worse. Cole Reagans made a rehab start at AA on Saturday. He got up to 62 pitches and could be activated to start Thursday against the Cardinals. That has not been confirmed. Chris, do you risk it and start Cole Reagans in weekly leagues this week?
I'd try not to, yeah.
Yeah. The Rangers did finally place Nathan Eovaldi on the IL with triceps fatigue. He actually played catch in recent days and said he felt good, but it appears the Rangers opted to play it safe, and Kumar Rocker is set to take Eovaldi's spot in the rotation and start this Wednesday against the Rays. Me personally, I'm not looking to add Kumar Rocker, Chris. Yeah. I think it's more of like a let's scout him and see how this goes.
Yeah, I think that's very much a wait and see, because he actually, from what I remember, he looked good at AAA. It's just, I think he's kind of solved AAA, and it's just, he's got to make that next step, and we haven't seen it yet. So we've really barely seen anything from him at the major league level yet.
All right, you brought up Yuri Perez, who is scheduled to make his 8th rehab start Tuesday at AAA. He threw 5 shutout innings in his start before this one, and if all goes well, this could be his last one before joining the Marlins. He's 68% rostered. This is your last chance to go grab Yuri Perez while he's still available. Jackson Jobe went on the IL with a grade 1 flexor strain, which is always scary for any pitcher, especially, one that throws hard and has all this prospect pedigree. His velocity was down in his last start as well. There is some talk that Sawyer Gipson-Long will take Jobe's spot in the rotation. If so, he is a name to watch. He's been pitching very well at AAA so far this season. So much for our convo on Friday, Chris, because the Rays optioned Chandler Simpson to AAA and activated Jake Mangum from the IL. Simpson was hitting a cool 285 with 19 steals in 35 games. But apparently the Rays cited his defense as a reason for sending him down. And despite his elite speed, Simpson ranks 13th percentile in outs above average, and he's 2nd percentile in arm value. So I don't agree with the move. I mean, I want him here selfishly for fantasy, but the defense is legitimately bad. So, I mean, I guess that is an argument to send him down.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's also like, I'm pretty sure Christopher Morel's out of options, and Cameron Meisner has been good on defense and shown a little pop. I understand how you get to the point where Chandler Simpson's the guy to send down because he has options, because he's so inexperienced. I would rather have kept him up and sent Meisner or Mangum or even DFA'd Christopher Morel. I just don't think that's going to happen, but I understand how they got to that, especially with it being the Rays. They're always going to prioritize defense. I think we'll see Simpson before long. I think his defense has to be better in the future than it was in this stint. He's relatively raw as an outfielder, but certainly has the athleticism. And I thought he was good as a hitter, 285 batting average, 315 OBP, very little power. Obviously that's not great, but I think it was a 305 XBA. So I'm hoping we see Simpson before long. Maybe they give Mangum or Meisner, or I think Johnny DeLuca is going to come off the IL soon. Like, they'll give those guys a chance, but I think the most fully realized version of the Rays outfield in the next year will include Chandler Simpson.
Yeah, I mean, the defense, I've listened to like other prospect podcasts and stuff, and I've heard legit, skepticism over his defense.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much better it's going to get, but obviously, I mean, offensively, he was doing exactly what they wanted him to do. So in 5 outfielder roto leagues, I think you have to hold on Chandler Simpson. If you play in, a 3 outfielder head-to-head categories league or something like that, look, if you need the steals, you can hold for now and hope he gets called back up. But in a league that shallow, you might be able to get away with dropping him there. Anthony Santander was placed in the IL due to left shoulder inflammation. Alan Rodin was recalled, and he was crushing it in the minors. 361 batting average, 3 homers, 3 steals, and OPS over 1,000, more walks than strikeouts. Chris, in 15-team, 5 outfielder leagues, I would be looking to re-add Alan Rodin if he was dropped.
I am trying to do that in AL only labor because I had him and then I dropped him when he got sent down. So would like to be able to pick him back up. I think, it's only 15-team leagues. And even then, like, I would think Colton Cowser's pretty widely available and he should be back sometime this week. So, I think I'd prioritize him.
All right, next up, Cedric Mullins went on the IL due to a right hamstring strain, retroactive to May 29th. Dylan Carlson and Jorge Mateo are seeing extended run as a result. Mateo, if you need steals in deeper leagues, if you lost Simpson, could be a name to look at there. Some other prospect promotions, again, we got a decent amount. The Mariners promoted middle infield prospect Cole Young, who is 21 years old, first-round pick back in 2022, consensus top 60 prospect in baseball, mostly known for the hit tool here. There's a little pop. There's solid speed, 16% rostered. Chris, were you looking to add Cole Young anywhere this weekend?
Yeah, I think he's a pretty interesting player. Really good approach at the plate. It is sort of ironically like a JP Crawford-esque profile where really, really good approach at the plate. I think the career high is 11 homers in the minors. Last year, he didn't hit for much power because he was dealing with a wrist injury. But you'd prefer a little more speed from this profile, but maybe it's like a Chase Mydroth where I think his career high was like 13 steals in a season and he's already got 8, in 30 something games. So maybe Young will be a little more aggressive, but I do think he's a pretty interesting option who should hit for a good batting average. And there's like 10-20 upside with Cole Young.
All right, what about the Orioles, who recalled Kobe Mayo with Ryan Mountcastle going on the IL? And we've heard Mayo's name the past couple of years a ton. He's still just 23 years old. The power is there. He's still hitting the ball hard. But, batting average and strikeouts have been an issue in the minors. Chris, any interest in Kobe Mayo in deeper leagues?
Sure. I mean, I think he's got to get in the lineup and show us something first, which has been a problem for him. And this is definitely a situation where, one, I think the Orioles handling of him has just stunted his development a bit, but also I think the Orioles handling of him probably tells us something about what they think of him as a player, that, that they haven't moved mountains to get him in the lineup. I think that probably tells us that they aren't sure he's definitely going to be a star. And so, skepticism is reasonable, but I hope they give him a real chance here. That's what I'll say.
The Astros promoted 2 names this weekend. Outfield prospect Jacob Melton. He at AAA was hitting .254, 2 home runs, 3 steals, 880 OPS, hitting the ball extremely hard. And then they also promoted Shea Whitcomb, who was crushing the minors. He's older. He's 26 years old, but 18 home runs, 6 steals, and 956 OPS. Chris, any interest in a Jacob Melton or Shea Whitcomb?
I think they're both mildly interesting. Whitcomb, I think since the start of last year, it was 161 games at the AAA level since the start of last season. He hit like 285 with 43 home runs and 32 stolen bases. I think there have been times when Whitcomb has been called up and we've been kind of interested in, and, he clearly didn't take the job and run with it last year, but I do think there is some potential here with Shea Whitcomb if they give him a real chance as well.
Yeah, it feels like AL only for now, but maybe if they get playing time, that's a big thing. They can work their way into some deeper mixed league conversations. You mentioned this one earlier. The Phillies plan to recall Mick Abel to start Thursday in Toronto. He is taking Taijuan Walker's place in the rotation. And a reminder, his Major League debut on May 18th was awesome. 6 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts to 0 walks, 34% rostered. Yeah, honestly, I think 12-team roto leagues are deeper. Man, if you need pitching, take a shot. See what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wrote up for today's waiver wire like 5 pitchers to stash, and it was Bubba Chandler, Yuri Perez, Abel was one of them, and then I saw he was getting called up. Andrew Painter, and who was the other? Oh, Logan Henderson. Just because it's not really an exciting time for pitching ads on the waiver wire. We kind of moved past an interesting crop, and so
I think you can throw Shane Bieber in that mix too.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. So yeah, those are some pitchers to stash if you have the roster space for them. Obviously, Abel, because he's going to be in the rotation. Look, yes, Aaron Nola could be back relatively soon and push him back out, but life finds a way, right? Like that's we didn't think there was going to be an opportunity for him, and then they've had a couple injuries come up. So if he's good and Nola comes back, then it's like, well, what happens when Painter's ready? Cross that bridge when we get there. Life finds a way,
Oh, yes. Jazz Chisholm could be activated as soon as Tuesday, and he will play third base upon his return. Chris, you go ahead and start Jazz Chisholm if you have him.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Christian Yelich left Sunday after getting hit by a pitch on his right hand. X-rays came back negative, and let's hope he's all right because he was really picking things up. Last 8 games for Yelich, 472 batting average, 5 homers, 13 RBI, and 2 steals. Sean Manaea will face hitters before beginning a rehab assignment in early June. He is 62% rostered. I don't think he's as exciting as those other names we just talked about, Chris, but I think it's another pitcher you could stash. Sean Manaea.
Yeah. I mean, we saw him pitch like a difference maker for, 2/3 of the season last year, basically. I guess it was only like his last 12 starts that he really took a big step forward. I don't know how sustainable that was going to be, with the lower arm slot and the Chris Sale impersonation that he was doing, but it was impressive enough over long enough that, I think we should be pretty excited about him making his return. I do want to point out with Yelich, assuming he's okay, he has a 271 BABIP right now. His previous low in a non-2020 season was 321. That's a 50-point gap between his previous low. So look, his XBA, I think, suggests that he has earned that. So I'm not saying that he's just having bad luck, but I do think there's room for him to take off if this is just, a minor issue.
All right, next up, Adolis Garcia has been on the bench for 3 straight as part of a mental reset. He's batting .208 with 7 home runs and 5 steals. He's 84% rostered. Chris, are you holding Adolis Garcia?
Sure. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith that he's going to turn it around, but who were the top? Let me see who I wrote about as the top outfielders. It was not a super enticing group, but maybe there's one. Okay. Oh, there were 2. Miguel Vargas, 62% rostered. I think I'd just be okay dropping Adolis Garcia for him. And the other one, Tyler O'Neill's down to 52% rostered. I know he's been bad. I think he has 1 home run since opening day and has obviously missed some time, but we know when he gets hot, he's a must-start player. So that would be one that I think I'd be okay with dropping Adolis Garcia in the kind of league where those guys are available.
Yeah. And this goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I would drop Adolis Garcia for Jac Caglianone.
Sure.
If he was, if you had Adolis Garcia on your bench. Turns out AJ Smith-Shawver has a torn UCL in his right elbow and will require surgery. It has not been determined if it will be Tommy John or something else. Want to give a shout out to Mets prospect Ronnie Mauricio, who is crushing the minors right now. He was a big prospect a couple of years ago. He tore his ACL while playing in one of the winter leagues. He's still 24 years old, but 18 games in the minors this year. Mauricio is hitting .311 with 3 homers, 5 steals, and 876 OPS, and just hitting the ball extremely hard. So I think it's a deeper league name to stash, but wanted to mention that one, Ronnie Mauricio there. Other players who went on the IL this weekend, Austin Hayes, unfortunately, with a left foot contusion. Zach DeZenzo with left hand inflammation, Dalton Varsho with a left hamstring strain, Jordan Walker with left wrist inflammation, Ryan Mountcastle with a right hamstring strain, Lane Thomas with plantar fasciitis, Liam Hendricks with right hip inflammation, and Lucas Ursig with a lower back strain. Did also just want to quickly mention the Rockies. I mean, they are just unfathomably bad. 9-50 through 59 games. They are on pace for 25 wins this season. After the White Sox just set the record for least wins in a major league season.
It's wild. And
they're probably going to sell anybody who has any value at the deadline, or at least they should.
Well, they should. Well, what is the reason for optimism here? like how are things supposed to get better? I would have bet on Michael Toglia hitting better than he had so far, but they sent him down.
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime you can bring Keston Hiura back into the mix.
Yeah. I just, maybe Amador. I
know that they have some interesting hitting.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that, but for them to avoid that record, German Marquez has had some flashes recently of not their pitching has actually been, relatively speaking, less of a weakness than the hitting. They have I believe I saw they have a 70 WRC plus as a team right now. Which is the worst that I've ever seen. There must be someone worse, but relative to their league, this is, I believe, the worst any team has ever performed.
Gosh, just so bad. Also wanted to give a shout out to Denzel Clark. If you did not see his home run robbery on Friday night, please go watch it because it is as advertised. He was supposed to come up and he's an 80 grade glove right away. And he just stood there on the wall and just waited 5 seconds for the ball to land. It was insane.
It was fun.
Let's take our final break. When we return, we'll talk some waiver wire moves, some starter sit decisions. We'll do all of that right after this quick commercial break.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Let's dive into some waiver wire hitters and some names in shallow leagues. Carlos Correa is hitting well since coming off the IL. 9 games, 300 batting average, 3 homers, 94 mile per hour average exit velocity. He's 72% rostered. And Xavier Edwards returned this weekend. He went 5 for 5 on Sunday. He has 11 steals in 44 games. I mean, this could be if you just need speed in a shallower league and you lost Chandler Simpson, obviously Xavier Edwards doesn't play the same position, but he can provide a similar skill set here. Just in a vacuum, Chris, is it just league dependent? I think I would go Correa in a points league and probably Edwards in a categories league.
I think that's the way to go. Yeah. It is a very good sign that Correa had that concussion and has come back and has hit the ball well, because that's not always a guarantee.
Yeah.
Concussions can really knock guys off their game. So that's very promising to see.
Some shallow league corner infielders. Rhys Hoskins led the charge in that mauling of Jesus Luzardo. 2 for 6 with a double dong and 6 RBI. He is up to a 367 on base and an 832 OPS. Max Muncy had a huge game against the Yankees on Saturday. 3 for 6 with 2 homers, 7 RBI. 26 games since getting the glasses. Updated numbers here. 265 batting average, 6 homers, 27 RBI in 26 games. And an OPS over 800. If you're just shooting for upside, Chris, at corner infield, would you rather have Hoskins or Max Muncy?
Oh, Hoskins. I think they're fairly similar, but Hoskins is younger and I think has a little more power right now.
And plays every day, too.
Yeah.
Muncy's not going to play against lefties, but any leagues with a corner infield spot, he was available in our NFBC Beat FBT league, and we picked him up because, all right, we throw him in there when he faces some righties, and he's hitting well for now. Some utility players, guys that you can move around here. Jose Caballero has been heating up. Last 14 games hitting 275, 1 home run, 10 steals, and OPS around 800. He's got 4 different position eligibilities. And Willie Castro had a big weekend. 2 homers on Friday, 3 for 4 with a steal on Saturday. Has been disappointing overall thus far. But Chris, if you're just looking for a name that you can move around your team and you need some speed here, would you go with Caballero or Willie Castro?
Probably depends on specifically what you need. If you need stolen bases, especially Caballero, but I think he's probably the play overall just because Castro has not been particularly impressive himself. Caballero, I think you're just hoping he hits 260 and steals a bunch of bases, but he is at least scoring some runs lately. I think it was 21 runs scored it was 13 runs scored in the month of May. 6 of those in the final 5 games. So that hasn't been a consistent part of his game. It's mostly steals. But I think he's probably the better overall player than Willie Castro.
And I do have some deep league outfielders. Addison Barger is on fire. He homered in all 3 games this weekend. Last 22 games, he's hitting .316 with 5 homers and OPS over 1,000. And the quality of contact just looks awesome right now for Addison Barger. Robert Hassel is doing some things. Has multiple hits in 3 of his last 5 games, and he has 1 home run and 1 steal in 10 games overall. Mike Tauchman has been hitting for batting average for those in deeper leagues. He's up to a .379 with a .481 on base in 12 games so far. And Denzel Clark, who I mentioned, not just defense. He had 2 hits on Friday, first career home run on Saturday, and then he had 2 steals here on Sunday. So yeah, he's got a little power, a little speed. Chris, anyone stand out there? Some deep league outfielders?
Yeah, I think Barger and Clark stand out. Clark is a kind of interesting talent. Like, he's a big time athlete who actually has real raw power and a really good approach at the plate. He's a very patient hitter. He'll draw a walk. The problem is the A's have been, I think, kind of retooling him to be a contact hitter, trying to just get the ball in play and let his athleticism take over. And so he hasn't really hit for much power in the minors this season. That's probably by design, but I think he is somewhat interesting in deeper leagues. And then Barger, here's the thing with Barger. His value is limited by not being an everyday player, by being a platoon player. And it's one of those things where it's like, can he hit his way out of the platoon? Well, maybe, but then I think that runs the risk of the stats not following, right? Like he's doing so well, I think in large part because he is a platoon player. But the numbers are, as you said, phenomenal. He has an .816 OPS and he's underperforming. It's a .345 WOBA with a .386 xWOBA. It's red all over. The plate discipline has been very good. The quality of contact is excellent. I don't know how much I buy it, but because he's so low rostered, I don't think you need to buy it. You can just add him, and as long as whenever it goes south, if it does, just get out of it.
It looks like he's only sat 1 game since May 8th. So unless they just have not been facing lefties, Addison Barger looks like he has been playing most of the time. So yeah, I mean, especially with third base and outfield eligibility, we lost Alex Bregman recently. We lost Mullins. We lost Anthony Santander. I mean, I think Barger is a really good injury replacement right now, and maybe more than that because he's hitting the ball really hard right now. What about waiver wire pitchers? Let's slide over here. And the first group includes Jack Leiter, 5 2/3 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts here. He's at the Rays later this week. Zebby Matthews, a mixed start here. He gave up 4 earned runs in the first inning and then settled down after that. But it was 7 innings total, 4 runs, 7 strikeouts, 15 whiffs on 94 pitches. And Zach Littell, one of the weirdest starts you will see. A 10-hit complete game at the Astros.
Didn't they win this game by like 10 or something?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they just like, all right, well,
I think this was just like we don't just go out there,
throw as many pitches as you want. He gave up 3 runs. He had 6 strikeouts, but look, last 9 starts for Littell, 2.97 ERA, 1.06 WHIP. He's not getting any strikeouts. I don't necessarily buy it, but he's home against the Marlins this week, so
yeah, I think that's a fine stream.
Yeah. Anything else on the other 2, Chris? Zebby Matthews and Jack Leiter.
I'm very intrigued by what Zebby Matthews is doing so far. I think his strikeout rate's over 30% right now. We haven't seen like a great start from him. This one, obviously, the 4 earned runs held him back, but I think otherwise he was really good. And overall, I think he's been pretty impressive despite, the ugly 6.43 ERA. I think Zebby Matthews is more or less a must-roster player. Yeah, he might not get there, but if he's available in any of my leagues, I would like to add him, and certainly ahead of Leiter and Littell, and I think pretty much any other widely available pitcher right now.
All right. Anything to see here with these deeper league pitchers? Chris Pfaadt, I don't think it's a thing, but look, this is an awesome start. 8 innings, 1 run, 10 strikeouts against the Mariners this weekend. Edward Cabrera, last 5 starts, a 2 ERA and a 1.19 whip. Charlie Morton, back-to-back quality starts for the Orioles. Kyle Harrison looked good. He had 14 whiffs against the Marlins this weekend. Chad Patrick, a quality start at the Phillies. He's got a 2.97 ERA. And Ryan Yarbrough keeps pitching well. This time at the Dodgers, 6 innings, 1 run. He had 17 whiffs on 93 pitches against that lineup. So it seemed kind of interesting. But what do you think? Anything to see here with any of these 6?
I am mildly interested in all of these 6. Paddock, I didn't realize this until today, but he's reworked his slider over the past month or so. He's throwing it harder with less drop, and it's performing well. I think it has a 30% whiff rate on the season, which he has not had a pitch with a 30% whiff rate since 2022. So that seems like a good sign. Now, I will also point out that despite, I think he has a 2.47 ERA since the first start of the season. Remember, he had that awful first start, and we were like, yeah, he's out of the rotation. Zebby Matthews is coming for his job. That didn't happen. He has a 2.47 ERA. This was his first start with more than 6 strikeouts all season. So I don't want to overreact or make it seem like I think Chris Paddock is suddenly a difference maker. But I think he has the Blue Jays, Rangers, and Reds in his next 3 starts. Those are pretty good matchups. Yeah. So like the Blue Jays are mediocre, but the Rangers and Reds are good matchups right now. So I think Paddock's an okay ad. I think Cabrera's command looks good, which is weird. He is trading some 4-seamers for sinkers, which is probably a decent decision. He's going to get fewer whiffs, but he might be able to command that pitch better, and it gets weaker contact. And the changeups and sliders just, need to be good, and he can kind of make up for it. So again, not a must roster player, not a must add player, but someone to keep an eye on. Charlie Morton, the stuff didn't look terrible. It was just the command was horrible in the first month, and it's been really good. I don't think he's walked more than 2 in an outing since the first outing of May or something like that, and generally has pitched pretty well since going to the bullpen. Kyle Harrison's velocity is up about 2.5 miles per hour from last season, which it needs to be because you can't throw your fastball 65% of the time if it's 92 miles per hour. So that was good to see. Yeah, I think these are all moderately interesting pitchers. Certainly none are must roster or must start, but I think they all have something going for them.
Let's fire up the drop-o-meter for these 2 pitchers. Chris Bassett has allowed 4+ earned runs in 5 of his last 8 starts. And during that stretch, it's a 5.44 ERA and a 1.51 whip. Chris, where is Chris Bassett on the drop-o-meter?
I prefer not to. I don't. For any of the guys we've talked about, I don't know. Maybe Zebby Matthews, probably Yuri Perez or Bubba Chandler if you don't need the help right now, but certainly not a must drop.
What about Tony Gonsolin, who had a rough outing against the Yankees? He actually earned the win in this one, but it was 6 innings, 4 runs, 4 homers allowed in this one, and last 3 outings, a 7.80 ERA and a 1.87 whip. Where's Tony Gonsolin on the drop-o-meter?
I think it's pretty high, yeah. I think we got fooled by the first couple of good starts, and I think we can go ahead and release him to the land of the streaming.
All right, starter sit these pitchers this week. Zach Eflin bounced back against the White Sox. He better. 7 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts, 12 whiffs on 99 pitches here. His first quality start since before he got hurt. 47% started for Eflin. He's at the Mariners this week. I feel like their lineup has slowed down, but I might be making that up. What do you think about Eflin?
It certainly does feel like the Mariners lineup has slowed down. I don't have the numbers in front of me to prove that, but at Seattle, I think he's an okay start. Not a must start, but he's fine.
Let's see. The Mariners over the past 14 days are 21st in weighted on base average. So, yeah, that's not the best. Seth Lugo, kind of bad in his return from the IL against the Tigers. 3 1/3 innings, 4 runs allowed, 2 homers allowed in this one. He did have 5 quality starts in a row before getting hurt. He's at the Cardinals this week. What do you think about Seth Lugo?
Cardinals are a weird matchup, but I would lean towards starting them or starting Seth Lugo. Yeah.
All right. What about Bryce Miller, who made his return? He wasn't great against the Twins. 4 innings, 3 runs, only 2 strikeouts here. Velocity looked okay coming off the IL, dealing with an arm injury. The curve was down a little bit. Everything else looked mostly fine here. It just has not looked right all season.
The problem is his velocity looked fine relative to pre-injury or pre-IL stint, but it's still down from last year.
True.
I'm looking for an escape hatch. I'm hoping he has a good start, and I can try to trade him because this just feels like it's going to end in heartache.
Yeah, he does get the Angels this week, so I mean, how can you start him though? As bad as he's looked this season, you can't start him, right?
That's Bryce Miller?
Yeah.
I would really try not to. Yeah. He just hasn't had any. He hasn't shown any signs of upside.
And then we have Gavin Williams, who turned in a quality start against the Angels, 6 2/3, 2 unearned runs with 6 strikeouts. He had 11 whiffs on 130 pitches. Threw that cutter a bunch in this start, and it was great. He had 7 whiffs on the cutter, 41% whiff rate. So, he's tinkering a little bit and maybe finding something. Last 5 starts, a 2.30 ERA, 110 whip for Gavin Williams, but still 15 walks over 5 starts, just way too many. If you have Gavin Williams, are you starting him this week against the Astros?
Yeah, I think he's looked really good the last couple of starts. I don't understand Gavin Williams, just his whole process where last year he doesn't throw the sweeper, what we now call the sweeper. He instead throws this bullet slider and the cutter, and they're both pretty good. And then he starts out this season completely like sliders out of the picture still. Doesn't throw the cutter at all until like the end of April. And since he's reintegrated the cutter, he's looked much better because this was a good example. Today, his fastball velocity was down. He wasn't, I don't think he got a single whiff with the fastball, but the cutter was great. He got 7 whiffs with it, and that helped pick it up. And it just, I don't understand this like bifurcation that he does where like he can only throw certain pitches at certain, it's like, we've seen like 6 different pitches from Gavin Williams in his major league career. And I'm not saying they're all great, but finding the right mix is important. And I appreciate that he seems to have found the right mix right now.
All right, let's get back into it here. We were just talking about, I lost my place in the notes, Gavin Williams. So let's run through the rest of what happened this weekend. I have 4 names that look like the breakout is happening on the hitter side of things. Cal Raleigh will just not stop hitting
ridiculous.
4 more homers this weekend, and he took over the league lead with 23. He also has an OPS over 1,000. Pete Crow Armstrong, 2 more steals on Sunday. He's hitting 280 with 15 home runs and 19 steals. Junior Caminero.
Caminero.
The dude is red hot. 4 for 5 with a double dong, 5 RBI on Saturday. Last 10 games, he's hitting 400 with 5 homers, 17 RBI in 10 games, and an OPS around 1,400. And Jeremy Pena just very quietly continues this breakout. Last 7 games, he's hitting 407, 3 homers, 4 steals, and overall he's hitting 309, 9 home runs, 31 runs, 30 RBI, 10 steals. He's a true 5-category player, Jeremy Pena.
Yeah, the weird thing about Jeremy Pena is the expected stats don't quite back it up. He has a 369 WOBA, 347 xWOBA, so there is a gap there, but that's not that big of a gap. And that 347 expected WOBA is way better than we've ever seen from him. What's hard to figure out is why. Like his quality of contact metrics look very similar to last year. His 367 expected WOBA on contact, basically league average. His average exit velocity actually slightly down from last year, but basically right on. Barrel rate a point higher, but not significant. It's mostly just that he's making a lot more contact. His strikeout rate's down from 17.1%, which is already good, to 13.8% so far. I don't know how much I buy that. That feels a little unsustainable So I think Pena's probably a sell high. That's not to say that he's totally a fluke, but I think he's probably more like a 275, 280 hitter than a 310 hitter, which there's nothing wrong with being a 275, 280 hitter. It's just, it's not 310.
Yeah. All right. We did have some pitchers duels this weekend.
It's time to duel.
First up, we had Ryan Pepiot up against Framber Valdez. Pepiot 6 2/3 shutout with 4 strikeouts. Still allowed 10 hard hits in this game, but he has turned in 5 quality starts in a row. And Framber Valdez, a 3-hit complete game, 9 strikeouts to 1 walk. He did that on 83 pitches. He was incredibly efficient in this one. He has also turned in 5 straight quality starts. Throwing that curve and change up more, Chris, Valdez looks like he's back on track. I think Ryan Pepiot is a sell high right now, if you could try and get some.
Absolutely. His whiff rate on the 4-seamer has dropped significantly. I mean, it's dropped on everything. He really, even when he's pitching well, he's not getting strikeouts. The strikeout rate is like 18% right now. And I don't really see a path to that strikeout rate getting better. He was so dependent on his 4-seamer being an outlier whiff pitch last year to get strikeouts. Doesn't look like it's coming back. He's limiting hard contact well enough, but not to sustain this. I think he's more like a 4 ERA pitcher. Him and Taj Bradley are both, I think, kind of like 4-ish ERA pitchers. They just go about it in really different ways. And right now, Bradley is probably, he had a very good start this weekend, but he's probably underperformed and Pepiot's probably overperformed. Framber is very interesting because he's going on another run. It's not the same way the run happened last year, though. Remember last year, it was like 40% curveballs, a lot more strikeouts. Even in this one, I think it was 36% curveballs, which is one of the highest marks of the season for him. I don't think he's gotten up to 40% in any start. So I think we're seeing more normal good Framber Valdez than what we hoped was a breakout at the end of the second half of last season.
Next up, we had Tarik Skubal against Michael Wacha. Skubal, 7 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts here. His last 2 starts, 16 shutout innings, 4 hits, 0 walks, 20 strikeouts for Tarik Skubal. And Michael Wacha on the other side took a no-hitter into the 7th. He went 7 shutout, 1 hit, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. He's rock solid. You know what you're getting from Wacha. He's 2.88 ERA, 1.17 WHIP. He's looked good. And in shallower leagues, he's available. He's at the White Sox this week. If you have Corbin Burnes and Wacha's out there, no brainer. Wacha against the White Sox, great match.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep. And then the last matchup here, we had Taj Bradley up against Hunter Brown. You mentioned Bradley, great start, 7 innings, 1 unearned run with 10 strikeouts. That was a season high. He had 18 whiffs on 104 pitches. And then Hunter Brown, 6 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts for him. He now has a quality start in 10 of 12 outings this season. Anything on Taj Bradley or Hunter Brown?
Hunter Brown's another one where, like we said with Jesus Luzardo, there's probably going to be some regression. He's not a true sub-2 ERA pitcher, but his ERA could be a run higher, and I still think Hunter Brown would be one of the 15 best pitchers in fantasy. So I fully buy into what he's doing, even if I think there's a little bit of regression there. And then Bradley, it's just, he has these stretches where he looks really good. He never looks consistently good for long enough to buy in. I think we're 60 something starts into his career. I think that's just what he's going to be.
All right, some hitting leftovers. It was a huge weekend for Jack Centurio. He had a steal on Friday, a sock and a shoe on Saturday, 2 more hits on Sunday. The power, the speed, the counting stats, all there. We just need the batting average and the OPS here to bounce up for Jack Centurio. Signs of life from Tyler Soderstrom, Chris. He homered twice this weekend. He only had 1 home run in May entering this weekend, so nice to see that. Big weekend for the Mets stars. We had 3 homers from Lindor, 2 homers from Soto, and then a 3-run homer from Pete Alonso on Sunday. Facing the Rockies will help that for sure. Big weekend for Marcus Semien, which was, sorely needed. 4 for 4 with a sock and a shoe on Friday, and then 2 for 2 with 3 runs and another steal on Sunday. hopefully this could be the start of something for him.
I finally moved him down to like 20th at second base, so that's why this is happening.
I saw that. I have him at like 15, so I moved him down quite a bit.
It's very tightly packed between like 12 and 20 at second base.
Yeah. Look, the Yankees got beat up by the Dodgers this weekend, but Friday was awesome. Judge starting that game with a home run, and then Ohtani matching him. Yeah, that was great. Just, the two best hitters in baseball just duking it out. That was so cool.
I think the first time in MLB history that the defending MVPs homered in the same inning.
That's so awesome. Judge hit 2 more home runs on Saturday. He's up to 21. And Ohtani did hit 2 home runs on Friday overall. And I think he's up to 21 or 22 at this point. I know Raleigh has the lead at this point. George Springer continues his renaissance, hit 2 home runs on Saturday. Jose Ramirez extended his on-base streak to 28 games. He homered twice this weekend. Elly De La Cruz is on a tear. Last 8 games, he's hitting .367 with 4 home runs and an OPS over 1,200. And Manny Machado picking up the power. He has 4 home runs in his past 9 games. A lot of these names are just studs being studs. Chris, is there anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, my feelings on Elly De La Cruz have not changed since the start of the season, but I know there was a lot of concern about his relatively slow start. So I'm sure this is something that a lot of people wanted to see from Elly De La Cruz, and I'm happy it happened. I think he is what he is. And that's frustrating, but I think you accept him for what he is rather than what you want him to be, and you'll be happy, because what he is a dominant fantasy player who's just not quite as good as people want him to be. And then Manny Machado's been awesome this year. I feel like we barely talked about it at all.
Yeah.
And we've talked so much more about Rafael Devers, certainly, but also Austin Riley and some of the other guys at third base. And
the power was very disappointing before this recent stretch. Yeah.
But I feel like we just haven't talked about Manny Machado at all. Like, he's got 7 steals. He's hitting .308. He's been awesome. He's been great.
Yeah, 40 runs.
And the
27 RBI is low for him, but
the underlying numbers I think are much better for the power as well. So
yeah,
no concerns there. Yeah, he has a .549 expected slugging percentage.
Nice. Some pitching leftovers. Part 1, Andrew Abbott had a stellar start at the Cubs. 7 shutout innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts for him there. Nick Pivetta continues his breakout season with the Padres. 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. And Sonny Gray, awesome at the Rangers. 7 shutout with 10 strikeouts for him. 3 straight quality starts, 2 of those with 10 strikeouts for Sonny Gray. Anything that stood out for Gray, Pivetta, or Andrew Abbott?
It's really crowded, so it would be hard to do. But I'm kind of talking myself into Abbott as like a top 40 pitcher.
I moved him up to 53, 57.
Last update was around 60, but I looked more closely into him, and he's getting the strikeouts. The walk rate is lower lately, but it's around 9% overall. He's still doing a great job limiting hard contact, which that was the thing he did last year. He limited hard contact really well last year. It was just the strikeout rate was way lower. Now he's doing both. And that, I don't know. He's always been a weird pitcher. He's always been a hard pitcher to figure out, but I really like what we're seeing from him lately.
All right, and then pitching leftovers, part 2, we have Robbie Ray, tough luck loss at the Marlins. 7 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts with 19 whiffs in that one. Garrett Crochet has been tremendous. He was at the Braves, 7 innings, 1 run, 12 strikeouts, 23 whiffs on 112 pitches. I really just hope the Red Sox prove us wrong. I hope Garrett Crochet does. They are just really working him, man. 7+ innings in 6 of 13 outings. He has thrown 100+ pitches in 7 of 13 starts. He only did that twice all of last year. So they're just really, really pushing him. And then Chris Bubich took a tough luck loss against the Tigers. 7 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts for him. Chris, anything on Bubich, Crochet, and Robbie Ray?
The one thing I noticed on Crochet, his changeup has been ridiculous this season. It has a 51.7% whiff rate, and he has not allowed a hit on 11 at-bats against the changeup so far. That's been, he doesn't throw it often. He throws it exclusively to righties, but it's really good.
All right, the call to the bullpen, just some things that stood out for the Giants on Friday. We saw Camilo Doval in the closer role for the first time. He recorded the final 4 outs for his 6th save. And then on Sunday, Doval recorded 4 outs once again. He did walk 2, but picked up his 7th save. So Doval, clearly the guy. Anywhere where he's available, just go out and add Camilo Doval. For the Tigers on Friday, Tommy Kahnle got the 8th inning with a 3-run lead, facing at 9-1-2 in the Royals lineup. He picked up his 7th hold, and Will Vest then picked up his 8th save. On Sunday, we got the same recipe. It was Tommy Kahnle in the 8th inning for his 8th hold, and then Will Vest in the 9th for his 9th save of the season. For the Dodgers on Friday, Tanner Scott entered with 2 outs in the 8th, runners on 1st and 3rd, a 3-run lead. He got DJ LeMahieu to fly out, and then they only let Scott face that one batter, and Alex Vesia came out for the 9th inning and picked up his 2nd save. I was watching this game. I think what they said was they didn't want Tanner Scott to sit down and then come back out for another inning, so that's why they only let him face one batter. I mean, whatever. It's the Dodgers. His usage is kind of inconsistent at times. He also has been a little bit more hittable recently, but they just have so many injuries. I just think Tanner Scott's the guy.
Yeah, he's on pace for right around 30 saves. I never thought the ceiling was much higher than that, but if he gets to 30 saves, you're going to be thrilled about it.
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't been as good this season, just on a skills level. Strikeout rate's down. Walk rate is actually minuscule. That's weird. 3% walk rate. That's shocking for Tanner Scott, but he's been a little more hittable as a result.
Yeah. For the Cubs on Saturday, Daniel Palencia got the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He struck out 1 for his 5th save. Very clearly looks like the Cubs closer for now. And for the D-backs on Sunday, Shelby Miller pitched in the 8th inning with a 2-run lead, and Justin Martinez got the 9th. He struck out 2 for his 4th save of the season. To stream or not to stream on Monday, we have Max Meyer home against the Rockies. Tyler Anderson's at the Red Sox. Richard Fitz is on the other side against the Angels. Savali at the Reds. Severino home against the Twins.
Fitz only threw like 3 innings in his most recent start, right?
Yeah.
That would be the concern because he was rushed back from the IL, I believe. So I don't know if you can count on him for 6 innings. I like the matchup, though. Man, I mean, if we don't get a good start out of Max Meyer against the Rockies on the road, it might actually be time to drop him. So I will say Max Meyer, Luis Severino, and Aaron Savale. But I wish I was confident in Max Meyer.
On Tuesday, we have Lance McCullers at the Pirates, Cade Horton at the Nationals, Shane Smith gets the Tigers, Brian Bayo gets the Angels, Sagano is at the Mariners, Clayton Kershaw home against the Mets.
I really don't like this group. I could see a good start from Bayo. I could see a good start from Horton, although the Nationals have actually been pretty good lately.
Yeah.
Josh Bell's in one of those streaks that he goes on where he can just carry a lineup.
I have him in NL Labor, so I need it.
Yeah, I would say McCullers and Bayo would probably be my top 2 here.
I will go with McCullers, Horton, and I guess I'll say Sugano, but you know the deal with Sugano. You're hoping for a quality start.
Yeah.
Not much upside there. We are going to wrap there. For Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.